yesterday's papers? Who wants yesterday's girl?
Welcome to the latest edition of Looped In Live. I am Tim Wood, your editor from Loop Weekly, Methuen's only Methuen-based, Methuen-owned publication, news source. Appreciate you joining us this post-July 4th morning, or whenever you're watching on demand throughout the week. You will see we've got our guests in place already. We've got Steve Saba, Methuen City Councilor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, Tim?
Good morning. Very much
Hey,
appreciate
everyone.
you coming in right after the holiday. Got that's if you right down in the corner. That's Lou.
Yeah, that's me.
There he is.
There he is.
Address
So,
all correspondence to
there
me.
you go. You know, you can't get enough of Lou. So you know.
Oh, people can.
That's all. That's everything I hear. It's like you're like the unofficial mascot of the show. Everybody loves Lou.
Yeah, great. Just short a line of the two. That's fine.
All right, so a happy Fourth to you. A weird Fourth because it's in the middle of the week. It's like, do we make it the weekend before, or are we in July 4th weekend now? I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
really
what we're
weird.
doing.
It feels like Saturday or Sunday.
It does, right? It's
It's
like
America. We
yeah.
celebrate all week.
Yeah,
right.
And then
hey,
beyond.
perfect.
I'm with
Yeah.
you there.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board for that. So thank you to those who are joining us live. Please be active in the comments. Very active the last few weeks, and very much appreciated. We will address your comments as we go, to the best we can. As long as the internet's working here, we can update the comments. And call in 978.
Putting it up now.
Okay, Lou's putting it up. Lou.
978-659-0072.
There it
But I'm
is.
putting up
659-0072. Eventually, no, I won't. I'm just gonna stop saying I'll remember it. So, all right.
No,
So
you won't.
you know, I mean, listen. It's somebody said this to me this morning. Like, it's an interesting time to be a news person in Methuen. Methuen hasn't always had a regular news source, and as a resident, I don't really like it. I'll just say that. But as a I can't disagree that it's not an interesting time. But it's not an interesting time in a good way. So let's start with some happy, like we did last week. So that was not a fart, by the way. That was just me.
I don't think anyone was questioning that.
Well, you know, I like to get out in front of stuff, PR wise. So, so the fireworks at the Loop. You know, a lot of people were like, "Is that going to work? Like, how's that going to work?" I got to tell you, to me, I thought it was a phenomenal idea when I heard it, and I thought it was a phenomenal idea in execution.
It was excellent.
Yeah, I mean, you know, not a better place in terms of just being, you know, staging it across the street. I mean, perfect view. If you didn't want to be in the Loop parking lot, a lot of people were over at Middle Crafters. A lot of people were in Veterans Park. A lot of people, I mean, so in terms of the idea, and it's a great idea, and kudos to Mayor Jim Jajuga and his staff and the DPW guys, the Methuen Police, Methuen Fire, everybody that was involved in pulling that off. Listen, you cannot control Mother Nature, and that was a steamer.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Better than rainy or
Yeah.
cold, and it was a huge crowd, and it was a great atmosphere.
Seriously, when is the last time you saw that many people over the Loop just walking around?
Never like that.
I
It was
just
so
never.
neat.
Yeah, it was cool, and those are the type of events that I hope the Loop has more of. Like, I would love to see a festival in the parking lot, just
Well,
almost
that's-
like a carnival in the parking
It
lot.
reminded me of like the Lowell Folk Fest.
Yeah.
When you're walking around, the people in the booths all over the place.
Yeah.
It had that really nice atmosphere. They did a great job.
I really, you know, and listen. Okay, so you waited getting out. Okay, I heard that from a lot of people. You waited afterwards. Okay, it was a little tricky in terms of traffic flow. Could the traffic flow improve? Yeah,
I think
for
so.
sure. I think you know, in terms of cordoning off where you can park versus where you can't park. You know, I just did an informal survey of the businesses, and for the most part, the businesses were loving it. Just the foot traffic, I think, quite honestly, they were unprepared for that many people, like staffing wise, which is a nice problem to have. So if now they know for next year. The one thing that I did hear, one business that wasn't so happy that I heard from was AMC, because they had a lot of customers not being able to find parking. Park in the back. They have a whole parking lot in the back, folks. That was, by the way, it was almost empty. Like, I know a lot of folks like to park in the front, but park in the back. It's actually the best place to park. Yeah. Not for nothing. But so. Yeah, the traffic flow.
I think communication, I think the police could better organize it and direct people to the back.
Sure.
I think leaving, most of the people were Methuen residents. Lawrence had fireworks the same night. Havel did.
Yep.
So as a resident parked there, if the police said, listen, you're going to have it's going to take you an hour to get through this way, you know your way around town, go right, cut around. And, you know, I think that would have helped if they explained that to people a little bit better.
Yeah.
And but I think aside from that, everything else went really smoothly.
If I'm a business and I saw the way that was pulled off, if I'm just a business around town, like, I want to be part of that next year.
Right.
Like, I want in on that. You know, like that is almost a gathering that is like a taste of Methuen type atmosphere from a restaurant like that. There was tons of people there, and like you said, festival wise, it was so cool. It was just like walking around, you see folks you haven't seen in months, all in one place. It was cool.
And we needed something fun to happen in this town.
Yes.
You know, so it was really good.
A lot of folks ahead of time were like, "Whoa, geez, in the middle of a budget crisis, they're going to throw these Well, listen, fireworks are fireworks. They're in the budget. I mean, enough of that. I mean, let's have some fun. They didn't blow out any budget by doing it. I would argue in terms of just giving a centralized place to put on an event, that was better done than anything we've done in years.
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
So as you said, I think that more vendors are going to want to join next year.
Yes.
I think they'll figure out the parking. I think AMC, you know, they need to promote parking in the back of the theater. And maybe even some signs, movie parking. You know, they can reserve some spots there in the back. You know, they can fix the minor issues to make this work even better next year.
Absolutely.
But it's a winner. It was a great event.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going to have kinks.
That's right.
You know, but I mean, so you work out some of the communication. You get the communication about where to park and how to park and how to get in and out. You get that out a little farther in advance next year. But I mean, you know, like I said, if I'm a restaurant, if I'm farmers market type, if I'm a farmers market, I want to be at this event. I mean, it was, I don't know. It was, I mean, like you said, with the bad news, with the hits, with the shots on goal that the mayor's taken, and from me included, you have to be fair, and this was a winner. This was a good idea. And this is a new tradition. I hope it is. I mean, he was already talking about a holiday festival, same sort of thing with sleigh rides, and you know, if this worked well, looking at a holiday festival. I mean, can you think? I mean, I'm already looking forward to that.
Or a fall fest or something. It would be a great thing.
Absolutely. So kudos to the Loop for you know, playing in on it. Kudos to the city and all the departments, you know, fire, police, DPW, everybody that was involved in the planning. Great stuff.
Yep.
All right. So that's the good news.
So what else do we want to talk about?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's really nothing else going on.
No, there's not much.
So, and by the way, would love to hear your comments on what happened your thoughts on the fireworks. Let's see here. Okay, Steve, we love you. Brian, good man, always parks in the back when he goes to see a movie. I mean, that's the play. That's the play. Manda Panda. prefer it at the stadium. See, I disagree. I think that would be a great venue, but you don't want the turf in danger in terms of the fireworks, and there's not enough parking over there.
Well, remember, we've had it at the stadium. No, we don't want to touch that, but we've had it at the stadium for probably about 12 years in a row before that. And you know, everything's right there, and there's a big crowd and this and that, and the parking is even tougher.
Yeah.
But it was a totally different atmosphere at the Loop.
Yeah.
So I think it was so much better. I've gone to the stadium many years when it was held there. I think we have a win here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If there's a VIP tent at Margaritas, can I sign up now?
Yeah, you can. Well, they had one. It wasn't a VIP, but they did have a really nice outdoor setup.
Yeah,
and so did Joe's right in the parking lot. They had like another dining room.
Nice.
So it was really
Average
neat.
Joe's.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was really good.
I would definitely listen.
What, could they serve out there? Were they?
Yeah, they were serving.
They were serving hot dogs and burgers.
But they were serving alcohol. To answer your question, Lou, and
can they serve?
Can they serve?
Yes, of course.
And they had security. They couldn't leave the area.
Yeah.
So
I would
more details for the police. They need a couple extra.
Well, they need some money. They got fundraise.
Jeez. Low. I tried to convince a couple of the businesses, but they wouldn't, like, just as a consultant, like, you needed to have VIP seating inside. I'm sorry, especially on that 95-degree day. You could have sold booze for $100 a pop just to get in, but they didn't. So, and that was advantage consumer. So
they'll learn. They'll learn.
Yeah. So we've got another situation going on. We've got ongoing budget situation. So we're going to talk about the budget. We're going to talk about we've got a loan being discussed, a bailout. Folks don't want me to say that. Some of folks don't want me to say that word, but it's the Phil. Yes, I think it's time to talk about the ongoing fireworks. Yes, sir. You are correct, sir, as Ed McMahon would say.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah. So yes, good segue, Phil. It's a good segue. There are fireworks of another sort going on, and so we've got the budget going on. We've got a bailout loan going on in terms of and how much it will be. Had an initial homeroom petition filed. Now there's another one in the works for potentially more money, up to $10 million. Although you don't have to use it, it's kind of there almost like a home equity line of credit, just as it's not a direct correlation, but it's in layman's term. That's the easiest way to understand how this would work. It's there if you want it. Everything's got to be repaid in 10 years. So this latest round of it, let's start with this because it's the most current thing, Steve. This new homeroom petition, Representative Linda Dean Campbell sent out a final draft of it in hopes of presenting this to the city council at their meeting on Tuesday, on Tuesday the 10th. Where are you at in terms of this new proposal?
Well, I'm not in favor of it right now. And you gotta look at how the problem was created, but more importantly, this proposal doesn't really deal with just the problem. I think it's going to create more problems down the road. So number one, and I had a conversation with Representative Campbell, so she's very clear on how I feel on this. First of all, there were no city councilors involved in discussing this or putting this together.
The first one or this one?
Either one.
Yeah.
And but yet the city council, we're the ones that have to sign off on it.
Yeah.
Before I get on, let me just tell you, I think this city council that we've got right now is can turn out to be one of the best councils. We're learning. We were thrown into the fire. We're learning. But a lot of the problems that were created last year and were problems that were just rubber stamped and just ignored. They just vote, move on. And we are taking every issue seriously. We're reading everything that comes on to us. And, we're not stopping here. So they're basically wanting us to approve something that we have had no say in. and basically let's rush this through and let's approve it and let's move on. So number one, I am not supporting any more than the $4 million. To go and request $10 million because, we might need it. This is not a bond that we did when we built the schools. This is not a bond that they approved last year for the DPW to get new equipment and stuff. This is not a bond that they approved to renovate the stadium. This is a different type of bond, all right? This bond is going through the governor's office, is going through the state because we are in the red, because we overspent money that we couldn't. And now we're asking for, and you've said it right, it's a bailout. It's a bailout. And we're asking for this money. It's going to come with a lot of stipulations, which that part I like. But we're going to ask for more than we really need. So I would rather get the $4 million if we have to do this, get it paid off, get our act together. And then if you need more money to do renovation work, that's a different type of bond. But what they're saying here is, no, let's make sure we get $10 million so that if we run into the red again next year, then we can tap into that again. Or it's been said that if things don't go well with the police department negotiations, then
what this $10 million
we can do that.
Is. It's a buyout of the contract negotiations.
It's also that, but it's also in lieu of another issue with the school department next year in terms of overruns. I mean, it's.
Okay, let's talk about the school department because there's been a lot of discussion on that. Look, I have been a strong supporter of the schools for 25 years.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Again, I'm not saying this for any other reason than I want people to understand how I feel about this. I fought for that stadium renovation. I led the charge for people going before the city council in the previous few years saying we need more support for the schools. And I understand that the schools have been underfunded, okay? So there's nobody as a resident that wants to see more funding go to the schools than I do. But this past year, last year, they were underfunded. Their funding was cut by $1.5 million, okay? And my question last year was, why aren't they screaming about that? Why are you just accepting this? When you have a $70, $72, $78 million school budget that's so determined by special ed, et cetera, that you can't control, then you know what? You got to expect to have an increase every year. You got to expect, a couple of $1 million increase before you look at anything. Yeah. But yet last year they cut it. And I questioned that then. But everyone was silent. They accepted that. Now, in January, the school department, we have a new counselor that came in. There were 6 of us that are new counselors. Mm-hmm. And if I were on the school department, I would have made it clear that we need to go to the new city councilors and we need to say to them, we're in trouble. Now, yes, they can say, well, that's the mayor's job. They can say, well, they should have known. Anyone should have known. The reality is, though, if I were a school committee member and the mayor didn't do what he was supposed to do and go back to the council and say, we got a major problem coming, I would have said at the very next meeting in January that I'm going down to the school department, or we're gonna designate a person to go down there to the city council, and we are going to tell them exactly how bad the situation is.
I mean, it's like, okay, so maybe we're hoping, we're going to get more money, so that will offset this from the state, but that didn't happen. So at some point, yes, you've got to come and just be straightforward about it. And I mean, this is and again, folks, this is a layered conversation. This isn't just you're for the schools or you're against the schools. The fact of the matter is they overspent their budget by $4 million.
You don't do that. That's illegal.
I mean, if you
have so much money and you are now at zero, that's like taking my credit card that I'm just going to keep on charging. And, it's one thing to say...
Regardless of the level of the funding. You can complain that you're underfunded, and that's fine. We can all have that discussion, but you don't overspend. You don't overspend when you're funded.
I've heard so many folks for the schools now that we're through or in a a timeout in terms of the budget situation. I've heard so many folks still saying, well, we're in this situation because of the police. Okay, so first of all, why are we all pointing at each other? Second of all, if you really want to get down to the crux of why we're asking for this loan, it is because of the $4 million overrun on the school side. This is not because of the police department. The police have not even been paid on this contract yet, okay? Their first payment on this contract is supposed to be July 11th, okay? July 11th, yes. So they're still making the money they were making. And so if we're talking about how we got here, this is squarely how we got here. So now the question becomes, what do we do? Okay, and now if you can read about the framework of this for free in Loop Weekly. Tribune's also covered it. In this language, in this document that is going to be presented to the council, there is a framework for a new department being formed, the Department of Administration and Finance, that would create a chief financial officer that would report to the mayor. And let me just, how do you feel about that? Right now, our top official, whether the auditor should be the top official, that's another discussion. I mean, if you define an auditor, he should not be in a CFO sort of position, but he de facto is because of the structure right now. Having a CFO, not an awful idea, by all means,
no.
But right now, the structure is the city auditor, the top financial person, the top legal person, the city solicitor report to the council. And so now we're in the middle of a situation with a mayor who, I'm sorry, has conflicts of interest in the middle of all this. I don't understand it. I don't understand the language, and I think a lot of people, once they hear this, are going to be asking, is this mandated by the state? Was this language put in the agreement by the state, or was this language put in by the mayor's office?
Okay, so this is where I'm at. I mean, your questions, a lot of the councilors feel the same way. I think. I certainly feel that way. We were not involved in putting together this document. We don't know who wrote what, but I will tell you that I will not support this document if it makes a CFO, which I believe we need, but puts that person under the control of the mayor, okay? I'm against that, and I won't support it. Now, there are 8 other councilors. Maybe my vote isn't necessary, but I have a feeling most of the councilors are going to feel the same way. We need to, I think we need oversight. I think we need a CFO to come in here. I'm speaking to various people in the government, and I've made some really good contacts in the past few days, including yesterday on 4th of July at night. I had an hour-long conversation with the person who's been on regulatory boards in Springfield as well as Lawrence. And, my concerns, I'm being told they're very justifiable, and that we should be pursuing these. So number one, no, I don't think that the CFO should be under the mayor. And number two, I don't believe in going for more than what we need right now. I think it's a shame. And I know that somebody just commented about the need for the funding for guidance, et cetera. I agree with all of that. All I'm saying is we cannot spend money that we don't have. It's that simple.
That's a very basic concept that seems to be lost here.
It's illegal. You can't do that.
There's a finite amount of money.
So had the school committee come to us in January and very clearly said, listen, new council, I know you're all new, but we want you to know we're out of money. Mm-hmm. So we theoretically can't open our doors on Monday morning unless we go in the red. Well, we were only halfway through the budget. We could have opened the budget in January, and we could have started making cuts. And we could have made this work, or at least if we knew we weren't going to make it work, maybe we would have had a bond. But but in a proper way, not out of desperation. But when you come to us at the end of the year and say, by the way, we're over by $4 million, we're in the red,
yep.
Who does that? You know, not city government.
I'm guessing that would have been good information to have during the police negotiations.
Well, I don't think it would have mattered because I think people were sleeping. I don't think it was.
Well, I'm being hopeful.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Tim, why all this is happening is that the state and the current power structure is protecting the relationship between public unions and municipalities. And they're trying to make it easy to get money to public unions because that's the basis of the Commonwealth's governmental structure, the relationship between public unions and elected officials.
It's an interesting take.
That's the incestuous little fiscal circle that drives this Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they're going to protect it every way they can.
So, in terms of the other situation going on with this revised homeroom petition that I'm really kind of baffled by, the first homeroom petition was brought forth to you. To the council, headed again by Linda Dean Campbell, who said that the entire delegation was supportive of it, which was not the truth. Diana DiZoglio was not supportive of that, and I don't want to speak for her, but in speaking with her since then, she was not supportive of that homeroom petition and the language that was in it. And as it turns out, that language was way too vague. And even if we were just asking for $4 million, that would have needed to be, the state was not going to sign off on it the way it was written. So now we've got a revised version that is again not supported. If you look at what Representative Campbell said to the council in terms of sending this final version, Senator Ives, Representative Moran, and her were on it. Diana DiZoglio's name was not on that as well. And again, I do not want to speak for Representative DiZoglio, but I will just state very factually that her name was not on it this time, which would lead me to believe that, again, she is not in support of it. And I don't understand the rush on this either. Like, why is this being rushed back to you at this point?
Well, it is. It's being rushed to us to approve it as is, and all I can say personally is that I'm not going to be rushed because this is going to have repercussions. The police union, everything else going on is going to have repercussions for the next 30, 40 years in Methuen. So I am absolutely not going to rush on this and vote for something that I know in my heart is not best for Methuen. It's that simple.
So let's take a quick break here, regroup here. I'll get plugged into the comments a little bit. We'll take a break here on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. Be right back with you after the break. All right, a big shout out to the folks over at AFC Urgent Care. They've been big supporters of us since the beginning as the title sponsor of Ranger Nation Radio, and we are big fans of theirs. AFC Urgent Care, the right care right now. You'll never need an appointment. Got that persistent cough and cold, that cut that needs a few stitches, or need a sports physical and don't want to wait weeks to get into your primary doctor? AFC's streamlined approach helps you be seen quickly and feel better fast. In Methuen, in the Merrimack Street Medical Professionals Building, 380R Merrimack Street. In North Andover as well, in the Burton Grill Plaza. 8 to 8 Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 Saturday and Sunday. Go to afcurgentcare.com for more details. Back here on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. Family is everything. That's why it's right in the name at Methuen Family Pharmacy, where you can get pharmacy services by the Methuen community for the Methuen community. You don't have to be a patient of Methuen Family Health Center to use the pharmacy either. Drop by 147 Pelham Street in Methuen, right off exit 47, off of Route 93, and near the junction of Route 213. And get your medication from the friendly faces you already see in your neighborhood. Learn more at glfhc.org/pharmacy. Methuen Family Health Center is proud sponsor of the Stars of the Week segment on our other show, Ranger Nation Radio. And a huge thank you to them for their support of this show, of Ranger Nation Radio, and everything that we're doing. They are also a sponsor in Loop Weekly. So, Tim Wood, back here with you on Looped In Live. Lou Blassie behind the glass, and in the corner of your screen down by the sponsor banners. That's Lou. And next to me, Steve Saba, Methuen City Councilor.
Still here.
Now, listen, this is a. I want to just start by saying thanks for coming on. Like, this is a time where you don't have to come on. So I appreciate you coming on, and I've asked other counselors, and some were away, some just don't want to, some never replied. Well,
I think it's important that everyone has an understanding of what we're. Well, I'll just say the reason why I'm voting and doing certain things, representing the community. So I think it's important.
Jason.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Jason Marcoux, 6 West Street.
Jason, how are you?
Great. How are you guys
Good.
doing?
I saw you at the fireworks. You enjoy it with the family?
I loved it. It was great. It was a great show. I actually like that they moved the fireworks this year over to the Loop. I feel that that's a better location for the town, especially fitting the amount of people that do show up and attend.
Now, I like how you identified yourself like we were at a city council meeting, and you give us you don't have to give us your address, but
that was good though.
Anyway, I want to so I just had a quick question, basically for talk.
Yep.
How can as of right now, okay, if the budget, we're talking the budget that was sent back to the mayor, not the 112th, if the budget was denied by the council and they don't want that voted on as a whole, but yet the mayor still has the final say on where the cuts are made, is there a way that the council can have the final say, maybe vote in some type of addendum to the home rules or something of that effect? Because I mean, how it sits now, in my opinion, it's no matter what the council does, it's just going to get the final say is the mayor's, and
so Jason, you're basically saying, because we put this out in this week's issue, the revised budget that the mayor sent back, that the first that was going at one point was going to be addressed by the city council before the DOR reversed their thinking on the 112 budget. The revised budget. Again, not final numbers until they are put forth before the city council, but what was sent from the mayor to the city council did not have the exact recommendations that you guys made. As it stands right now, he can, as long as he gets to that number that you guys recommended,
right?
He's, that's what he's bound by.
And here's where my concern is. He's allowed to get you that number, and he said it very, very clearly during the meetings. But where that number comes from is solely his decision.
Yes.
So the citizens that relay their concerns to the councilors doesn't mean anything, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, I'm not saying this is accurate. At the end of the day, he's going to make the cuts where he wants and where he feels is right.
Just as a couple of examples to what you're saying, Jason. So the council recommended that the chief of staff's salary be rolled back to $79,000, the first step of where that position will be set. The mayor's recommending another $10,500 go back into his office budget, which, if you look at the numbers, lines up with getting the chief of staff back to his current salary rather than rolling it back. So again, he hasn't confirmed that yet, but just looking at the budget numbers, it would seem that that's his thinking. And I don't want to speak for him, but again, just looking at the numbers and how they line up. The other part of that is
that's one thing, right?
The other part of that is he is looking in terms of where to find this money to get to $2 million to give to the school department. He's cutting another $150,000 out of the Department of Public Works, which is
they're so far underfunded. You know what the thing is too, and I want to bring up another point. It kind of ties into this. I've been in union talks in my union. I've sat down and negotiated collective bargaining agreements. I know how the process works. For us to not know where we stand with the police union is not the police union, the city, the police contract as a whole is up in the air. That's concerning. I know I've sat on some pretty bad ones where it has taken 2 months, and that's a bad negotiation where both sides walk away shaking their heads saying it ain't going to happen.
Jason,
and that the state came up with $10 million, that the state came up with all this extra money out of their couch cushions before the police contract was resolved is suspect at best.
Okay, so, and Jason, that's a great point, and not that I want you to hang up yet, but if you got more points to make, but I do want to address that with Steve. All right, so if as it stands right now, is that a situation that you would support in terms of how Jason is describing it? Like, let's just say right now, not support. Let me get clear on this. Right now, what you've got is, by all accounts, is you've got 2 official meetings that have taken place. No proposals from the city presented either meeting. This after about 4 months of complete inaction in terms of dealing with the police union. At this point, there are a lot of questions in the community as to whether there should be an outside mediator. How do you feel in terms of suggesting an outside mediator at this point, rather than the mayor's office mediating with the union?
Well, look, at this point, this is between the mayor's office and the union to negotiate something. I think it's been dragged on much too long.
Yep.
But as a city councilor, we're trying to give them as much time as we can, but inevitably we're going to have to get that budget back, and I'm asking for it back next month. At this point right now, and I could change it, but I have no intention of supporting another 1/12th month. I don't think the schools need the money. They need to be able to hire people back. They've only hired a few, and they can't really do that.
That was only because retirements and resignations. They can't hire anybody else back at this point.
No. So it's unfair to a lot of people, but we need to get this budget finalized. And once it does come back to us as a city council, we're going to act. This is not. And again, I keep saying, I'm just looking at the numbers, okay? And we've got to approve a budget that we can work with. And I'm hoping that the union and the mayor resolve something as soon as they can.
Can I ask a question in this regard? My understanding of this, my understanding of the story to this point is that both sides, on the sides of the police contract, claim that they didn't know what they were signing, and that the intention was a 0, 2, and 2.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the need for negotiation? If both of them think that they signed a 0, 2, and 2,
because
the resolution here seems obvious. Go to 0, 2, and 2.
Because here's why. At this point, okay, it was signed off by the council as is, and the police union. Again, I'm not speaking for the police union, but this is what I'm understanding from folks in the know. You know, they're not going to agree just to that 0, 2, and 2. They want.
Why not? That's what they thought they signed, according to them.
Yep.
According to them, you're right, but. No, they haven't officially said that though. I've been kind of putting it out there, but they haven't officially said that.
They're dancing the line.
I think that they thought that, and again, just further understanding the situation, I think what they were hoping to get out of this was not just the 0, 2, and 2, a little bit more than the 0, 2, and 2, but just to get some of the money back that they've given up in the past. That's not how it works, by the way, but that's a lot of what I'm hearing is that maybe they want a little bit more than the 0 and 2 and 2, but certainly not $450,000 captains. No. So, you know.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So my question would be, it's pretty much, the first question would be kind of yes or no thing. You know, when the council had votes on this last budget for specific departments what their family was involved in, this is a yes or no question, was there conflict of interest and these people got up and left the room?
Yes.
Yes, they did, right? Okay. Next, here's my big question. Is the mayor sitting on the department, sitting inside the room with an agreement with the police union to come to an agreement or a collective bargaining agreement? Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest?
Jason, it's a great point.
You're exactly right,
it is
Jason.
A great point. The idea that
I'll say it. No one wants to. Huh?
No, I'll say it too. The fact that the mayor is in the council chamber right now, when other members step out during these discussions, the mayor says he's not negotiating in this, that he's got his chief of staff negotiating, but he is in that room and he has butted in a number of times to make points in his favor on this negotiation. I mean, we're not just talking once. We're talking numerous times over the course of these discussions. He has specifically taken the stage and lobbied for his position, despite the conflicts of interest, and that is a huge problem.
That's a law.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
it's baffling. It is. There's a lot of things that are. There's a lot of things that there's a lot of questions still left to be answered. And Phil Leahy brought one up in the comments that we're not, trust me when I tell you, we're not letting it go, okay? The fact that the city auditor, okay, and I'm not trying to come down hard on Tom Kelly, okay? But in this specific case, the facts are that the city auditor reports to the city council, okay? So that if the city auditor had issues with this contract, which he says he did, and he says he verbalized to other councilors, he, as somebody that reports to the council, should have told the entire council before that vote. And if he did that, none of this happens. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to point fingers, but if he does that,
that's a sizable assumption.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that if you don't think.
First of all, I think it's a sizable assumption that you believe most of the council didn't know what the numbers were.
I'm going on what's been stated publicly.
I know.
Okay, I'm certainly with you.
Yep.
Okay, but I'm going with what's stated publicly.
I understand.
Okay, and what's been stated publicly is that he says he had issues with the contract, and he alerted 2 councilors to his issues, and he says he alerted the mayor, which the mayor has refuted. Mm-hmm. But let's just talk about the councilors, okay? Steve, you brought this up, and I have to ask you because it's really bothering me and a lot of folks. You brought it up at that initial meeting.
Jason, we appreciate the call.
Yes, very much, Jason. Absolutely. And please keep calling. You brought this up at that initial meeting where this came up. Tell us the names of these 2 councilors. And he refused at that point. Right. Why hasn't this just kept being drilled? Why hasn't anybody brought that up since in terms of the council? Like, tell us who these councilors are.
Well, we've asked. I'm not going to defend him. It's just that right now we've got to try to stay focused right now on resolving this crisis. Now, I'm not putting anything aside because I will tell you that the next thing that I want to do is we need an investigation, not just over the contracts, because the AG's office will investigate the contracts, but we need an investigation citywide over a lot of stuff, and that's the Inspector General's office. So what I'm looking for is an investigation, either two or a joint investigation of both, to come in and look through the city and look at what's been going on.
You said that
the $10
you
million
also
comes in, all this is water under the bridge, and the Attorney General is going to ignore it, and for the same reasons that I brought up earlier. This is being whitewashed, and it's being put off with the intent of, now we're not going back for these people.
Yeah.
You said this at that initial meeting.
You can't comment on that, I understand.
You said that along with asking Kelly to name those two counselors, you also said, now the mayor said it at that meeting, has said it repeatedly since, I'm not... it reminded me almost of like the Mark McGuire comments about his, his juicing. Like, I'm not here to talk about the past. Mm-hmm. Like, the mayor is like I don't care about that. I'm focused on the future. And yes, just like you just said, we do need to focus on getting this resolved. But the idea that gets forgiven and forgotten.
I'm not willing. I don't think it should be forgiven and forgotten.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of stuff that happened, and for some reason, it's hard to be pointing fingers right now. But I will say that the previous council, the previous mayor, the administration, you just watch the meetings. You make your own determination. But everything was just being rubber stamped. Everything was just happening. I mean, they bragged and they, about the fact that they had short meetings, but I'll take these longer meetings because we're going through these issues and we're going through every resolution that comes before us and tearing them apart. And I think that's what we need to do right now. So, it's tough, but right now, with a lot of ongoing stuff, I don't want to say anything that's going to make things worse.
Absolutely.
Or create more of a distraction to getting to resolving these crises right now. But, just look at go back. The meetings, you can go back many years, but just look at the previous meetings last year.
And again, it's why I appreciate you coming on, because there are a lot of situations that are difficult to comment on, and you don't want to exacerbate the situations. I get that. Don't want to inflame the situations. We want to get things resolved. But, I appreciate you being here to just discuss some of this stuff. All right. Lou, I don't want to go over an hour, but maybe a couple minutes.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take a quick break. Got some more sponsors to thank and appreciate, and we'll take a quick break. Come back after more of your calls, comments, all that good stuff back here on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center.
Right.
If I was young, it didn't stop you coming through.
Everyone is cashing in on social media, and all marketing roads lead through social media. If you want to make a splash here in the Merrimack Valley, you need to tap in. This is where the new CEM podcast studios come in. Of course, you can spend your time, energy, and money learning how to wrangle technology to make a podcast instead of running your business. Or you can invest in telling everyone in the Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, the Seacoast, or everywhere in the world about your great business, product, service, or yourself. The CEM Podcast Studio is a local audio and video studio dedicated to the craft of podcasts. Their studios feature state-of-the-art recording and mixing equipment designed specifically to produce the best audio and video podcast. Best of all you need to worry about is your show, your business, and your brand. We do the rest. Call 978-686-9966. That's 978-686-9966 to schedule a no-obligation tour of the CEM facilities and meet with a podcast specialist. Or go to CEMpodcast.com to find out more about podcasting services. CEMpodcast.com, your window to the world.
I love talking about my man, Val Davila. It's a dream to own your own business, and Val and Susan Davila made that a reality in February 2013. They started with just 2 insurance carriers, but now Right in Place Insurance for Progressive, Safeco, Pilgrim, Plymouth Rock, and Mapfre, just to name a few. Need auto insurance, renters, commercial, or home? Davila and DeFusco prides itself in having lifelong roots in the Merrimack Valley. Put their experience to work for you. Visit them at 225 Broadway or call 978-241-7950 for a free quote, or visit them online at daviladefusco.com. You better speak up now. If you want your biz, you better speak up now. Back here on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. Tim Wood, Lou Blassie, Steve Saba. Methuen City Councilor, and we have a call.
Go ahead, Steve.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Steve.
Steve, how are you?
Hi, Steve.
Hear me?
We do.
You're doing a great job, Steve. Great. Hey, Steve, we got the zoning board issue again, and I think that's most important more than almost the budget, When you got a corrupt board, of zoning board like we had with Zani, and you got 3 or 4 members who just quit, there's been a motion on the floor to see an investigation. Do you support the investigation?
Yeah, the motion we haven't voted on it yet, but I would support that, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just hate to see, I
mean, it's another thing on the back burner at the moment, Steve. It's like somebody mentioned that to me this morning, and I said that whole situation feels like it was 3 years ago at this point, with everything that's happened and the barrage of activity since the Community Development Board revelations. But it's not done by any means, Steve.
Right. The hearsay is that it came out of the Sweetheart Inn deal. All of a sudden, 3 or 4 people disagreed, and
well, no, that's not hearsay. That's specifically in the minutes of the meeting. This is all related to that Sweetheart Inn situation, and so yeah, that's not.
Do we know the conversation that took place? Was there threats to these zoning board members?
So
got up and quit.
So I posted the minutes on Loop Weekly Facebook, the minutes that came out. But yeah, so the conversation essentially was that the chief of staff representing the mayor told the board that this is the mayor wants 13 lots approved, or 13 homes approved for, over 55 living, 13 spots approved, when the mediation only said 10, by the way. The outside mediation said you should go for 10, and so the mayor came back and said, no, I want 13, and if you want to continue this matter in terms of fighting this, the city is not going to have your back legally anymore. We're not spending any more money on legal fees around this. We're ready to sign off on the deal, and if you're not, you're going to be on the hook individually, legally, if you want to keep fighting this. That's what was said. So.
All right, thanks for clearing that up. Steve, now, when they pick out a zoning board, do you councilors have a say on who's going to be picked?
I think you're talking about, I think you're referring to the Community Development Board,
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Right.
And, the names have been presented to the council. We have to approve them. They've been presented previously, and we didn't reject it. We didn't vote no, but we just sent it back. We weren't going to vote on it. So they still have to be sent to us for approval.
And as of this point, nobody's been approved.
Nobody's been approved. So they do not have a quorum, so they really can't do anything in their meetings, the Community Development Board.
I don't know what happened with last time with Zani being able to pick his son-in-law and his friends.
Well, they were approved by the council. They had to be.
That was terrible.
Yep.
And that was a great spot, the Loop, for the fireworks.
Wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, it was
awesome.
Really, I mean, I'll tell you, like the video of it that you see online too. I mean, listen, it was 95 degrees and it felt like about 107. It was not ideal weather-wise. There was a lot of sweating going on, but I mean, you can't control that. But I thought they did as much as they could to help hydrate folks and giving as much shade as possible. So yeah, I mean, just the whole thing itself was a good win for the city.
Steve, thanks for the call.
Yeah, that was a great call by Jajuga, and last thing you know. Oh.
All right, Steve. Thanks for the call, sir.
Can I ask you? Can I go back to the police contract for a second?
Yep.
Has anyone put a number on the difference between the current police contract and what a 0, 2, and 2 contract would be? How much money are we talking about?
You're talking. I don't have the numbers in my in my head at the moment, but
2.9.
2.9 is the difference. Okay, so 2.9 just for this year.
Yeah, and it varies depending, but that's
yeah.
But it's
most recent report I got.
2.9 for this year. But then on top of that, all that retirement money is it's a long-term problem for sure.
Yeah.
So the police chief, again, whether you agree with him even doing an informal mediation or not, the police chief presented his budget based on unofficial mediation he had with the superior officers union that got back about 1.7 million of that 2.9. Now, from what I understand,
comes back is important now.
From what and the way it comes
back 1.7 million, that doesn't help.
Well, they're handing back 1.7, but they're also killing all the retirement stuff that would handicap us long term.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way I understood it was that, and this I think Zani said this on the show, was that they were feeling that this was a $500,000 to $600,000 hit, and so if you take 1.7 back of that, you're talking about a 1.2 hit, $1.2 million hit, and is that great? No, but it's better than $3 million this year and millions down the road. I don't know. I
know, but there's a lot of talk and there's not a lot of action.
That we can agree on, and that's the most frustrating part. And again, so they've got a meeting scheduled. Their next meeting is scheduled for the morning before your city council meeting. From what I understand, again, just talking to folks behind the scenes, folks said, well, isn't that convenient that it's the morning before the city council meeting? Once again, the mayor's office will present something last second and expect the council to vote on it. No, this time you gotta present all sides, okay? From what I understand, the mayor's office lawyers wanted to meet on Friday, this next Friday. The union's lawyers couldn't, so they agreed on Tuesday. So just so we're not saying that this was a specific setup again to make this a last second thing.
When does Representative Campbell want the council to vote on the $10 million bailout?
The 10th.
Tuesday night. Yeah. Tuesday night. And by the way,
exactly how I'd play it.
And by the way, Representative Campbell is going to be there. Representative DeZoglio, who again not signing off on this, by all accounts. She again, I'm not speaking for her, but I'm going on on what was presented in that email. Not signing off on this, and she can't be at that meeting. Mm-hmm. So why does it need to happen Tuesday night? Like, why can't we come up with a time where all views can be heard?
Because the pressure has to be alleviated on the police department on this contract. The pressure has to be alleviated. This is all self-medication.
How does this solve the police contract, though?
Because you're going to get a budget passed, the school's going to get money, that's going to take all the protesting and all the parents up in arms out of the whole mix here. Everyone's going to go to sleep on this after this. This is what am I saying? This is anesthetizing the taxpayer. And by the way, I warned you people that were coming after the taxpayer.
Anesthetizing.
I'm a Massachusetts taxpayer. I get the bill. You guys in Methuen didn't get the bill. I get the bill. This loan comes out of my pocket.
It comes out of everybody's pocket. Absolutely.
The city pays it back over time, but yes.
Like the turf?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They do. The city pays it back. The state didn't pay for the turf.
Oh, I know. I understand.
The way that the way that the mayor says the way that the mayor says the turf was going to be paid back. Yeah. Not quite.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's a whole other day.
That's a whole other story. That group, the MEIC, had a plan and it was stopped at the city level. But that's for another conversation. That will take us 45 minutes. But I will tell you that there was a plan. Mm-hmm. And there was a plan to generate money, and the wheels started going. outside of the city influence, and the city stopped it
by having sponsors inside the stadium.
They wanted to handle it themselves. And
hashtag predictable.
Yeah, well, regardless, it's a whole other issue.
Yes. But the other thing about there being a finite amount of money, everyone talking about Methuen schools and the kids and the special needs and all this stuff, that $10 million comes out of some other school districts.
Yes, it does.
Money. There's a finite amount of money.
Let's not, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not thinking $10 million, first of all. But
and I'm not laying it at your feet. Yeah.
I really can't comment any further until something's before us, you know?
But this isn't an acceptable solution, and until there's a resolution to the police contract, there is not an acceptable solution. That has to be resolved.
That is true.
And just as a to make a point, I've got to call into Sean Cronin, who is there'll be a fiscal stability officer appointed in this situation. Again, just to point out how this would work, folks, okay? Everybody thinks we would immediately go into receivership. That's not how this would work, okay? There are steps A, B, C, D, E, F before receivership.
Never happen.
And what happens is it starts with a fiscal stability officer. Then if that doesn't work, then an overseer comes in. If that doesn't work, then a finance control board is appointed. Then we start to now if the state's not happy with how things are being handled at that point, then we start talking about receivership. But I've got to call in to Sean Cronin, the Deputy Commissioner of Local Services for the DOR. I'm thinking he may be on vacation, so but he would, in all likelihood, he is the fiscal stability officer for Lawrence, and will be the FSO for Lynn as well, who is in this similar situation. I believe they're taking about $14 million, from what I understand. So, and in all likelihood, he would be the fiscal stability officer here. I've got to call into him just to clarify some things that are in this new homeroom petition draft. In terms of, and specifically this language about a CFO and a new Department of Administration and Finance, and whether this is the DOR's language or this language was suggested by the mayor's office, because it just doesn't. It does. I mean, I'm just, you know, like, it doesn't smell right. It does not make sense that a CFO would report to the mayor when our current highest financial person reports to the council to, in theory, create checks and balances with the executive branch.
Thank you. Glad you put that in theory in.
In theory.
seemed to fail us last time around.
It did. It did. Mark Boisvert, that is a fair point to make in the comments. We don't need more meetings. We need action. Stop the verbal diarrhea. I mean, that's an accurate. Yeah. I probably wouldn't have said verbal diarrhea. It's fun to say, but anyway.
Think about this, though. We're sitting back waiting for a negotiation between the police union and the city. And the two people involved in the negotiations are the police union that drew up the contract and signed the contract, and a person who approved the contract. And we're
one of the people that approved the contract,
and we're leaning on them to negotiate a settlement.
Whose son benefits from this contract as is.
Yes.
He's one of the captains that would get paid.
Yeah.
Now, you can tell me that the chief of staff is negotiating that, okay? But the chief of staff reports to the mayor, and
that's a system that didn't do us any good last time.
And the chief of staff has worked with the mayor for many years, so there really isn't, you know, you said it. It's a great point. For that fact alone, there should be an outside mediator.
And
that with
not even going to get to the rest of it on a state level.
With binding mediation.
Yeah. Steve, if there's a renegotiated contract here, will that need city council approval? Or
yes.
Can the mayor unilaterally renegotiate this contract?
No, the city council has to approve it.
Okay.
All I can tell you without, saying anything else is I know we'll read through it in detail.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
At this point, can you? This is another question that I've gotten, and another question that I have. At this point, you guys reset. The budget hearings are no longer recessed. They
are still recessed.
Are they? They're in recess? I thought
on
it was...
Tuesday, we're going to come out of recess, and I believe go right back in recess because we don't have any more info. But we're going to have to continue with that late July. I'm hoping the third week of July, because we have to either approve another 1/12 budget or...
Well, when would you officially meet next as a council? You wouldn't officially meet yet until August, right? You'd have to call a special meeting.
No, it's a continuation of the special.
But I mean, you'd have to call a special. Like, you're not scheduled as a city council to meet again in July, are you?
No.
So you'd have to call a special meeting.
We would call for the extension of the existing meeting that seems to still be going on.
A special meeting to continue the
last few weeks.
Come out of the
recess. Meeting 4 nights a week.
All right. So here's my question with that.
I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
We
need an extension.
Here is my question there. Because this meeting is still a recess of your initial recommendations, do you guys still have the right to go back in and make revisions or more recommendations? Yes.
Remember when we talked about this just before we started the process? We made recommendations to the mayor. And then the mayor now has it, and he's going to change. He can't put more money back in. So whatever he moves, so if we cut money out of a line item, he has to find it somewhere else in the budget and put it back in. It's going to come back to us, and we're going to make cuts again.
Now,
and then we approve the budget with amendments.
But you can readdress things that were already seemingly put to bed, like. In terms of going back in line by line,
so if we took money out of a line item and the mayor put money back in that line item, we can go in and take money out of that line item again.
Can you go into any line item again to readdress at this point? I think you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going.
Yes, because again, we talk about so much of this going back to the last council and this specific issue. Okay. And we were all asleep on it, okay? We were all asleep on it, and myself included. I didn't report on it at the time. The fact that the city council chairman is now a junior accountant for the police department, I have a problem with that. But even just...
I have tapes. I wasn't asleep on it. I have tapes. Actually, I was more interested in the permanent intermittent police officer then.
Oh, Sean Fountain, yeah. Who's now
that caught my eye.
Now apparently a detective, I think.
Yeah.
So, can you go back and readdress that? You made a motion, which again, I'm baffled, and I've been told behind the scenes that nobody. So you made a motion to address that position and to cut that position, cut that junior accountant position. Nobody seconded it. It blew my mind. It blew a lot of people's mind. It didn't go over people's head. I can tell you that. I've been told behind the scenes, and I'm not looking for you to comment on this, that it didn't have the votes. And again, how people were thinking that motion would not have had the votes, I don't get. But okay, let's just go on the assumption that it didn't have the votes. Maybe it has the votes this time. Would you bring that back up?
Yes. Again, it's honestly not personal. It's just that's a newly created position.
Well, it was a matter of consistency too. You cut junior accountants in other positions.
That's right. So yeah, I would bring it up again, and I think that and you're right. No one seconded, so therefore nobody had a vote. So that they, whatever. But
it's less what the number of votes.
I'll bring it up. I'm not afraid to bring something up and not have it second. It's okay. I'm going to make the motion and we move on.
I think it's.
But I think it's right.
Where the votes would have fallen in that the votes would have been attached to names.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's the issue.
Exactly. So, and and they still will be. And maybe, hopefully.
When you guys do your charter commission, let me give you a couple suggestions.
We're doing it. We're working on it.
I suggested this for Lawrence, too, because I saw the dysfunction in Lawrence. You should not be able to run for mayor from the council, first of all.
Well, if you notice, one item that I strongly recommended that's on there right now that's being considered is going a little stricter with term limits. So if you are in office for 6 years, so you're a city councilor for 6 years, you have to take 2 years off, not jump over to school committee, not jump over to mayor. Take 2 years off, and then you can get back in again and run.
2 years.
That's
the thought process.
A term.
That's the thought process.
Yes.
So in the charter review, that's coming up.
That's the thought process right now.
And by the way, this should apply to working for the city as well.
Well, you know,
there has to be
that was already there,
working
Lou.
period.
That was already there. These problems that we're having were the rules that are in the charter are there for a reason. So the charter already states that if you're a city councilor, you don't take another job in the city until you're out of office for 1 year. Now, if you want to say 2 years or 3 years, they got to follow it. It doesn't matter.
I know.
So
I didn't even know that existed.
That
so
was
that
in
exists.
the charter, and you'd have to go back and look at the films of the meetings last year. But they basically voted to bypass the charter to allow. The charter says that if you have a person that is the only one that can do the job, then yes, you can bypass this rule. But that's not really the case.
Well, that's what we were focusing on with Sean, because there was a lot of moving around for him to continue the position as an intermittent police officer to collect the second check. Is that correct? Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of...
but he didn't, in all fairness to Sean, when he did get his job in the police department, he stopped taking his pay from the city council.
I know, but prior to that, was he not getting detail work?
He was.
Okay, and I remember as a Massachusetts state citizen again, a big fight and a ballot referendum that we could not have anyone but police officers doing detail work because people were going to die. That's what we were told. And we have essentially a city council who does no police work doing detail work.
Yep, no comment.
I'm not sure
I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just saying.
No, it just struck me as odd at the time.
Yeah. I'm not trying, as Steve said, Steve Saba said, I'm not trying to be personal here. And just as a point of information, as you guys say at your council meetings. Jamie Atkinson and I did football games together. We did basketball games together on MCTV. As a person, I think he's a great guy. Absolutely. But in this specific situation,
and I work together. I like Jamie.
Everybody likes Jamie. Okay, and honestly, that's part of why he's skating on this, is because he's very likable. But as chairman, as chairperson, as leader of the city council, there was incredible conflict of interest there, and then to be the deciding vote, be one of the deciding votes in not going line by line on the budget last year, because it may have cut his job. Then that's another issue. So I mean, it's not personal. It just, there is a reason we have rules and regulations, and governments are supposed to follow them.
Right.
That's all. So.
And this is one of these things, and we see it in other issues in politics in the United States. You're talking about a CFO, whether it reports to the mayor or adding a position and things like this. And Steve brought up the point earlier, and this is what we run into all the time. If you're not going to follow the existing rules, another rule isn't going to help.
Yep.
It can't be solved with another rule if the existing rules aren't being upheld.
Now, one thing we are adding on the Charter Commission that I brought up also is that in order to bypass or to let that happen again, now instead of a majority of the vote, it's going to require 8 votes. So if I'm a city councilor,
how about no?
Trying to get, I agree.
But it's just not happening.
There's no situation where there is no one else on the planet who can't do this job.
You're preaching to the choir.
Situation
there. I'm
does
just
not
saying
exist.
that it's just unfortunately,
you're trying to
say
work
what
within
should
the system.
Happen. Yeah,
you're trying to work within the system.
So if you have a charter and you can skirt the charter
should be the Bible
of the point
city.
of having a charter?
That is it, and you should not be able to bypass it easily.
I mean, the folks have already skirted the charter in terms of previous appointments to commissions. You're only supposed to serve on commissions for 10 years at a time.
Yes.
And we have people on the commissions right now that have been on there for up to 25 years.
Yeah, we didn't even realize that, and Joyce brought that up at a meeting, and we almost approved it, and so then, you know, if that's the case, 10-year limit, then we can't approve them. It's that simple. It's nothing personal. We need new names. There's enough people. We have 50,000 residents in Methuen. I'm sure we can come up with people.
So the 10 years, and then right now there's a 1 year in the charter that you have to be 1 year off the council before you get on any commissions or appointed commissions.
No, just 10 years, and then you step off on a. I believe right now you could be on one committee, and then after 10 years get right on to another committee.
No, I mean the council. Isn't there a rule that once you're done with council, you have to wait a year before being on any commissions?
You know, there might be on that with the council. Yeah. Yes, I'd have to look through that again. So
before I let you go, I have two more questions, or just two more things that I would like to clear up. Okay, and again, I don't understand. I am part of the media, so I get lumped into things. And I completely understand that. It's why I wanted at one point to get out of the media. It's because it was a filthy label to have as a journalist. But you know, you try to do things the right way. Try to anyway. In terms, so I was just confused this morning to see the story about the school, the disbandment of the school board idea that was brought before the charter review board. To me, and to me, it seems like a non-starter. I mean, Dennis DeZoglio, the chairperson, brought it up, but wasn't the discussion at the meeting like, no, this really isn't something?
No, I think at the meeting the discussion was, you know, everything. We want to look at everything. We don't want to just say no to anything.
Right.
We are reviewing the charter. We're taking it seriously. Dennis brought that up, and you know, our feeling was that, well, let's research it.
I mean, do you think the city council, as part-time stipended people right now, could handle being the school committee as well?
No, but I also think we have a problem with communication. And for some reason, we've got us versus them. We saw this in the past month.
It's happening. It's playing out now.
And that's a problem. Again, when I started earlier in the show, I talked about the school committee should have made sure they came to the council early enough. And you know, they're all saying, well, no, it's really the mayor's job. And it was the mayor's job. But if he didn't do his job, then the school committee should have done it. Now, when you look at the situation we're having now, you know, when we got into the budget crisis, they were all at our meetings, and they were all, you know, putting the pressure on. We never even voted yet, and we were getting, you know, bombarded with comments about, you've got to do this, you've got to save jobs. The reality is there is a wall that exists between the city and the school department. City council, school committee. That does not belong there. We are one Methuen.
Yes.
We're all the same.
So the idea was brought up at the last school committee meeting of having more of a joint task force, essentially, that would include members of the city council and the school committee to essentially force communication. Is that something you'd be in favor of?
Absolutely. I think we should have a joint school committee city council meeting. We did it just before the budget, but I think it should be a few times a year to come in there and just have an open discussion, you know, and let's know what's coming up, what we're dealing with, what are the problems, and I think that would help quite a bit.
Not count on anybody else to communicate with each other.
No, and the other thing that I talked about...
Communicating through social media is not helping either.
And I'll tell you what, no, the social media is not helping. In fact, I will tell you that I have been not posting on social media.
Yeah.
I posted, I'm going to be on this today. I posted happy 4th of July, but it's not helping at all. So and I don't go on much. But one other thing that I talked about that I want to see us do is once this mess settles down, if it ever does, we need to have a joint committee put together that's going to look at solving the problems of funding for the schools so we don't deal with this every 2 years. Enough of that. We need to figure out and we need to come up with a program so that we are not one of the lowest funded school departments in the state. It's nothing to brag about, okay? And we also have to go beyond that. Once we figure out at a city level that we're going to set a certain standard that we're going to fund our schools, we also have to somehow get through to the Department of Ed and to the state because the way they mandate programs, I mean, that's a whole other show, too.
Yeah.
But I talk to a lot of educators. I talk to a lot of people. I've been very active with sports and everything in the programs. But, you know, making it impossible to suspend or to expel troublemakers, you know, and forcing them to sit in a classroom isn't helping anything.
Yeah.
And it's costing the school department money. And you're trying to keep every child, the no child left behind the way that it's being enforced isn't working either.
Right.
You've got to be able to say that this student is a top performer and this student struggles and put them in classes that will help them without saying, no, everybody should be treated equally. You know, everyone gets a trophy. It doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work.
Tim doesn't want to go down this route, but you talk about, and it's a well-known fact, it's been talked about on the show time and time again, that the school department is underfunded from a state average.
Yes, it is.
Fine. That's great. Methuen is not underfunded from a revenue source. They're taxing at about, I'm guessing, near the state average.
Methuen, I think, is on the lower end of taxation, although we're catching up. We're going up every year. Yeah.
You talking about taxation or revenues?
Revenues.
And why you say I don't want to go down this route? I don't have the answer for you.
No, because the talk here through all this discussion is this shouldn't be Hunger Games and all the city departments shouldn't be turned on each other. I think they should be turned on each other because the problem here is if the schools are underfunded and we can divide city municipal government into several different factions. There's education, there's roads and bridges, there's public safety, there's administration. And maybe you have some other departments there what you want. If the school's underfunded and the city isn't low in terms of tax revenue, that means one of these departments is overfunded.
Well, no, but
and I want to know who's getting more money than.
But I mean, that's true. But like, why turn them against each? Why turn them against each other in the process of doing that?
Because
why everybody pointing fingers
fighting
at each other?
They're fighting me.
Last year with the outgoing administration, okay. They cut the school department budget by $1.5 million. The reasoning is they wanted to say, look at everything that we've done, and we've also they wanted to cut the tax rate for the first time in so many years.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. I mean, taxes went up. The tax rate actually dropped a little bit. 1465 to 1429. But the assessments went up and taxes skyrocketed again. And I said back in November or in December when they were talking about that, hey, I hate to tell you, because I started digging, and I started finding out, you know, that we need to have at least 25% commercial property. We don't. We don't. So we are not in a healthy situation, tax revenue-wise, and we're not correcting that, you know. And this is why I fought so hard against that 40B project that's going up by the Loop. I mean, the Loop is our big commercial area that we should have worked with that landowner to extend the loop over there. And then even if you have to put another level or two, but when we were building Toll Brothers and we were building, giving out these permits, you have a developer come in and say, I want to put in 190 upper income units.
Right.
They should have been told right then and there that, okay, 10% of those, 19 units, need to be affordable income so that we don't get knocked out on the 40B, and this way the state doesn't dictate. That never happened, which made the administration say, okay, we got to put this high rise. We need this. That's the worst place for that. I still say it. Everyone knows how I feel about it. It is the worst thing you can do, and we are looking at a tax situation where we need more commercial real estate. It's that simple.
I mean, and Wednesday night, by the way, illustrated just how good that could have been if we went another route to extend the loop, put some businesses on the bottom level, apartments above, and extend the loop. Maybe make a pedestrian bridge over the road. Yeah. Wednesday night illustrated that in terms of what it would look like.
Was that a proposal?
No.
No.
Oh,
but I'm just saying, like,
because it's a hell of a proposal.
Yeah, I mean, it's what a lot of folks were saying that just never got listened to. Yeah. Wednesday night illustrated what that could look like, just with all of the people at the loop.
You know, by the way, Bill just made a point that, you know, cut the budget by 10% across the board. I know that's been talked about. I will tell you, this council, though, when you look at the way we've cut, and we've gone deep into many departments, that's a good strategy, and that should happen, but not necessarily at this point, because we're cutting anything. The councilors, the current council, we're looking at every line item, and some things that I think we've cut too far. Other things I think we can continue to cut, but that's the only problem at this point with saying cut the budget by 10% across the board. Yeah. You know, we've already dug.
How much? You don't have this number, so this is an unfair question for me to ask you. Each municipality has fixed costs, whether they be contracts, whether they be mandates, increases. How much of Methuen's budget would you? I can't ask you because I'm going to need you to guess. How much of Methuen's budget is above fixed costs?
I can't answer that question.
I know.
I don't know.
I'm guessing it's not a large percentage. I'm guessing fixed costs are a predominant amount of the budget.
You're talking about things that are not fixed costs, like infrastructure improvements or you know, one-time changes. Right. And I'll tell you, we're way behind on that.
Right.
You know, in a simpler time, last summer at this time, when I was going door to door and talking about it, I was saying, oh, you know, we got to improve our infrastructure. I mean, I walked into the sewer systems with Jimmy Burgess
to public works. I'm thinking to myself,
I'm shaking my head on that.
That's going to bite you on the butt.
I'm shaking my head on that. That does not make sense. Yeah. But I will tell you that Jimmy Burgess, who gave me the tour, and Brian Hamilton came along with me and said, you know, you are the only two councilors, mayors, anything, that have taken these tours since he's been working for the city, which is now 50 years, okay? Right. And you look at some of the conditions of these things, and you say, you got to be kidding me.
How is it still running?
Of bolts on major pumps, and he said, you see this bolt? If this bolt ever blew, it would flood this room in an hour and a half and flow out. Then he showed me a picture of when they did maintenance on it, how the bolt is rusted halfway through. And you look at that, you got to be kidding me. How much is it to repair that? $50,000 we replace it. And he says, but when I go to the council...
How much is it to fix it when it
He said, but when I go to the council and I say I need $50,000 to replace a pump, because they just look and they just, no, it's not going to get us votes. They won't see it. And that was his whole point. At least you've seen it now. If you vote no, Steve, he goes, at least I can shake my head and say, well, he's seen it. Yeah. But we're not addressing any of this stuff.
The thing, too, is that there's so many... Once we get past all this talk, there's so many things that are still... needing to be resolved in terms of are we going to move forward in terms of looking at a new public safety building or a city hall or a DPW. I mean, it's all things that are needed, but it's like coming out of this situation. Like, can we be looking at it right now?
No, I don't see it. I mean, I will tell you, we need a new DPW facility. That one is dangerous. Yeah, right. Yeah. That's all I'll say. And yes, we can do a better job with the public safety facility, et cetera. But that is so far. When you look at the crises and the issues that we're dealing with right now, we have to first learn how to manage our government, our city government, responsibly. Yeah, and we're not doing that. When we have to find $4 million to pay for last year's debt, we're not doing our job. And then when we talk about making that $10 million, so we'll take care of next year's mismanagement also. I can't justify that at all.
I said it in this week's issue. It's an idiocy forgiveness loan.
Yeah.
And
it's a sweep it under the rug loan too.
Oh sure.
Let's just make this all go away.
It's not going to go away. It's just not.
Get the kids from out in front of the council. Get the kids off the street in Methuen. Just make this all go away because no one's looking good right now.
So I do want to address something that's come up in terms of, the conflict of interest article that came out. Do you want to address anything there?
Sure, why not?
So,
It's out.
because I asked, you know,
Yeah.
we've thrown a lot of questions your way. You know, I was going to ask you, is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to talk about? I mean, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you. You know, I think, you know, a story ran, and I almost posted it, but I'm just not posting anything. But I think that the Tribune reporter is a much better reporter than she acts sometimes. I didn't agree with that story. She talked about conflicts of interest. The stuff that came out on me was stuff that I posted myself. So, for instance, before I took office, should I run? Do I have conflicts of interest? I talked to ethics. When I got elected, but before I took office, then I talked to ethics again. Talked to ethics in January. I've talked to them about 8 times. And in fact, a couple of the lawyers that I've talked to said, didn't we talk about this, Steve? Because we have it on record, and I know I spoke to you. So number one, I have a wife who's a math teacher at the high school. And ethics says you have no conflict because you don't, some cities will vote on line by line.
You're not voting on the school.
So if
committee.
you were going to vote on teachers' salary, you would stay out of that. But because the school department budget is so big,
you don't go
could
through it
vote
line by line.
Yeah, but they said you do not even have to worry about the line by line. So you have every right to vote, and you should vote on the teachers' budget.
Okay.
Because it's so far removed where you have a teacher that you're taking care of. Okay, so the other one was I do have a son who works for the DPW. That's a conflict. And I said when that comes up, I stay out of all of that. I voluntarily stay away from more than what ethics tells me I should stay away from. But then there was an issue with a relative who is the wife of a cousin who is a dispatcher at the police department. I spoke to ethics about that. And when I say I have the wife of a cousin, they say, stop right there. Not an issue at all. I said, no. This is the wife of a cousin. Stop right there. Not an issue. Okay? And Lisa in her story did talk about it being, you know, husband, wife, kids, parents, and spouses, immediate family. That's it. So I wanted to still list it just for transparency. And one person at the ethics department said I would not even list it. Another person that I spoke to said, well, I know it's the same last name. Go ahead, you can list it. But this person actually said, but there's a chance you'll get some reporter that's going to come out and say, geez, you know, look at why I just discovered on him. And I said, you know what, this is Methuen. I know a lot of people. I'm going to do it anyways. And I listed it. But it's unfortunate that, you know, when you're talking about conflicts of interest in Methuen City Council, going back the last year or two, there are a lot more serious issues than bringing up these issues. But it happens.
I mean,
it's disappointing.
The reality of local government is that in a city that is as old as Methuen, you are going to have conflicts of interest for people. It's usually the folks that actually care about the community are usually, unfortunately, a lot of the folks that have conflicts of interest because those families are more inclined to public service.
Well, look, I was born in Methuen, and aside from between years 1 year old and 5.5, my family lived in Salem, right back here when I was 6. First day of grammar school, I attended Methuen. I've been here all my life. So you know what? Yes, you know a lot of people. Your family is here, and my determination to run to make a difference, it has no bearing on any conflict of interest because those people already had jobs. I could care less. It's just about doing what's right for the residents and for our community.
What I took from that article was that everybody that was listed in that article that has conflicts of interest have left the room at appropriate times except for the mayor. That's what I took from it.
And there's nothing wrong with it. That's part of it. Ethics watches that. That part is, last year there were other issues.
Let me ask a question, though, and I don't know the answer to this. They excused themselves from talks about the police contract, right?
You're talking about last year's council?
Yes.
Yes.
But they voted on it.
And
because
again,
of the rule of necessity.
Yeah, the rule of necessity, okay? Which is
I know,
which
they needed
insanity.
a quorum.
They needed a quorum. You had 3 councilors who had family conflicts.
So what good is it to excuse yourself?
And then you had two more that were taking jobs.
So what is it? What good is it to excuse yourself from talk about the contract when you're going to vote on the contract?
I don't believe rule of necessity should have ever been applied last year. I don't think it was
who
necessary.
would have voted, though?
When you have a situation like that, the discussion was, out of 9 councilors, you need a quorum. But when you have conflicts, your quorum becomes the people that are in that room. That's what I was informed by a state-level person yesterday, 4th of July, last night at 8:30 at night, on a 1-hour phone call with a person who is overseeing Springfield and has done work in Lawrence. He said the quorum is who is sitting at that table to vote. So you remove the people with conflicts, and that becomes your quorum. So the rule of necessity, for what I'm being told, never should have came into play. But again,
how many councilors would have voted in that case?
4, I think. So, but we have to see.
4. Yeah. Which would have ended in a 2-2, and then you've got another whole other issue. So.
Yeah.
By the way, the cynic in me tells me influencing 2 or 3 or 4 votes is a lot easier than influencing 5 of 9.
I mean, it is. So how do you win? What do you do?
Town manager.
We'll find out what the real
town manager. Now that's all. Yeah, that's a whole other issue. So Steve, you're in on those conversations too. Town manager versus mayor.
I bring that up, but by the same token, the school department is run by a manager who's hired and not elected. And the school department came in $4 million short last year.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's a solution either. But this conflict, and again, where I started the program, this relationship is a problem. And it's the biggest problem that municipalities face. And unfortunately, the way local politics work, there's a lot of political influence here, and somehow that has to be diffused for everybody's good.
How do you?
I just think Methuen is further down the road than most of the other cities and towns in Massachusetts, but they're all going there.
How do you further down the road in terms of issues?
This fiscal mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you're talking about
they got in a turbocharged car in the last contract, but every municipality in Massachusetts is headed down this road.
I think without crazy contracts and without everything else, more municipalities are heading down this road.
Yes, just at a somewhat slower pace, fortunately for them. But every municipality in Massachusetts is headed down this road.
What would you like to see, just as a zig, just for a second before we go, because we do need to go. Steve Gillis said, "Can you guys stay for another couple hours?" No, we can't. By the way, there has been I got it a lot at the Loop on Wednesday night, and I really thank you for this. I take this as a compliment in terms of what we've been doing. I've had a growing number of folks say to me that you need to do at least 2 of these a week. You need to do two shows a week. That all comes down to sponsors, folks. So if you want to see more of this, tell your small business folks to get in contact with me at tim@loopweekly.com to sponsor this show, and we will be glad to go longer. But at this point, I'm paying double for the work. But it's good stuff. But if we were to go to another show, we would definitely need sponsors to cover it. And again, thank you for a lot of folks email, a lot of folks at the Loop Wednesday night. I was flattered, and I appreciate it, and it's why we wanted to start this show in the first place, to just kind of have a forum that wasn't here before to discuss local issues. So that's the answer for now. If you had more businesses, let's say we need more businesses, what kind of businesses do you want in town?
Geez, we need. That's a good question.
You want a Trader Joe's? What do you want?
Yeah, I do. I think we need to be. The town has to be appealing to businesses to want to come in. All right, and also I don't think that we do a good enough job as a town to recruit and try to bring businesses in. We've got a lot of empty spaces right now.
I look at it very simply, okay? And again, this is not a knock to our business development people, but listen, if I have a month where I don't recruit any new advertisers, that's a bad month.
That's right.
Okay? We're having a lot of those, like even the ones that we thought we were attracting, like Jessica's Brick Oven, that's in limbo right now as to whether they're even coming. They're based in North Andover. They might be staying in North Andover at this point. So, I mean, we need more. And this is the other situation that I don't get. Like, we knew Salem was coming. We knew it was approved. Yeah. We knew Tuscan Village was approved. Like when that, I mean, if you go through it now, because the roads are starting to be paved over there. I mean, to picture what it's going to be mind-blowing, and it's like 4 miles away from us.
Right.
Yeah, but to be honest, Salem has the unicorn in Joe Farrow.
But what I'm saying is we knew this was coming.
He's a visionary and willing to commit to the town. And
okay, why can't Methuen attract the visionary?
I don't know, but there aren't a lot of guys like Joe
No,
Farrow.
there aren't. But we knew this. What I'm saying is we knew this was coming, okay? And when you talk about why, like, how do we build this high rise? Okay, we knew this was coming. Why don't we think ahead and say, you know, there's not just like expanding the loop. That an interesting idea to expand the loop across the street. Okay, now we're in a situation again, something no one wants to talk about, but 2 years from now, good luck keeping the tenants that are there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, you've got geographic issues.
Old Navy's going to go over. Why would if Old Navy's got an outlet over at Tuscan Village, why do they need to keep this one open?
Methuen has geographic challenges because a 9-iron away, no sales tax. That's the economic reality.
Methuen also has great advantages in terms of the highway accessibility. Mm-hmm. Now, okay, you've always been a border town.
Right.
That's always been an issue. But I don't, and again, I'm a new guy. So
look, the loop has its draw, and the loop, I think, could draw more and could do a better, you know, if we had extended it. But you have a lot of stores that are in the loop that are also in Salem or in the mall. You have the candle store. You've got a lot of them.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem.
Yep.
I'm not overly worried about Tuscan Village and what it's going to take because I still would go over to the loop. I'll go to Tuscan Village, obviously, because they'll have stores we don't. But I have no problem. The loop is a nice atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? It's not. We got to stop blaming other people, other communities.
I'm just saying it's old at this stage.
Well,
it needs to evolve a little bit.
Well, the loop that's up to the loop management. I think they're doing a decent job with that. But as a city, we should have helped to expand it, like I said, across the street. Look at Merrimack Street. I mean, to me, and that's in my district, and that's also. But Merrimack Street, you know, if you don't fix it up, and I know that's a state road, we need to get the state involved. But if we don't fix it up and clean it up and try to draw businesses, and we have to have an aggressive community development department that's going to go after businesses and try to bring them in. You know, the new strip mall that was built behind the new Dunkin' Donuts next to Salem Co-op on Merrimack Street.
Yeah.
You know, that's sitting empty.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to put upscale shops in there. So the first shop that goes in is a dollar store.
Dollar Tree.
Now, are you going to open up a nice jewelry store?
I like Dollar Tree, but
I do too. But you're going to open up a nice jewelry store next to the Dollar Tree. You have to. You got to define what you want. All right. So we're at a very risky area. You put a couple of more low stores.
I don't see it, but I don't even think it's the Dollar Tree because I've been in other cities where you've got a Dollar Tree and then you've got a high-end wine store and a GameStop and a Best Buy all interacting. The rents over there are ridiculous.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Because I looked over there, and so you know that's part of the problem of why it's sitting empty right now.
Back of a parking lot is part of the problem, too.
Yeah.
No street frontage.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what attracts businesses? Good school systems.
That's right.
Lower taxes, affordable housing.
That's why
what attracts business.
we have to solve our own problems. Don't blame other communities. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Better restaurants.
Restaurants, by the way,
bars.
it's cheaper. You know, talk about sales tax. The tax for a restaurant is lower than in Salem.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, why isn't everyone coming
Yin and
here?
yang.
No one's eating in Salem, right?
Yeah.
So we can
bit of
deal
both.
with this.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the differences is you go and pay $100 for a meal, and you pay a sales tax. And by the way, Methuen also took Governor DeVal's funding with the additional sales tax, right?
Right.
Methuen is one of
but
the
it's
towns.
still lower.
Right. You want a $1,000, I won't say $1,000 TV, then not $1,000. You want a $1,000 mattress.
I want a 70-inch television. Yeah.
You're not
Yeah,
gonna
you
pay the
say the
sales
5+%.
tax. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. You want alcohol? You go to New Hampshire. You want cigarettes? You go to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And while you're up there buying alcohol and cigarettes, you're buying the TV, you're buying the meal,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
This is the economic
and again,
environment.
I'm not pointing fingers. Like, you know, there's some people that have personal issues. I don't have any personal issues. I like Bill Buckley, just very specifically. I just think in general, I'd like to see, you know, I just would like, you know, I think the downtown is a, I hope it keeps progressing. You know, like I think a lot of people are cynical that it's going to die on the vine.
It's a New England downtown. Every town, every municipality in the valley and in New England in general has to deal with a downtown that's withering.
No, but they are dealing with it. You know, and they're revitalizing them.
To an
I mean,
extent,
Haverhill's done it. Amesbury's done it. Linfield did it in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean,
But our downtown has geographical challenges also. It's small. It's one strip. It's not like downtown Andover. We have all the side streets,
Right.
and in Methuen you have one street basically that goes down. That you got the hill on 28. That's not going to help you.
it's a
And
nice street.
Haverhill went through decades of disasters downtown.
Yeah,
Decades
yeah.
of disasters until they lucked out in the new building. And again, that's going to pull up downtown to an extent. I think it's limited. You can only go so far in old New England downtown at this point. That's why most of the cities and towns have developed separate strips, like the Loop.
There's a lot of people that said, let's just forget about downtown and just make the Loop downtown. You know?
Well, I still believe it's going to be a historic downtown. That's all it is. It's going to be a nice. It's never going to be a retail bustling area.
Right.
You just don't have enough
It's not
space.
Essex Street in Lawrence again. It'll never be Essex
No,
Street in
but
Lawrence again. None of
believe
these towns will have that.
No, but I believe that the Loop is really our downtown retail
From a business
shopping area.
standpoint, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can have two.
You have stayed way longer than I asked you to, and you could have said, "What are you doing, Tim?" So I appreciate that. Before we go, is there anything else that you want to address that we haven't talked about?
I think we covered just about everything.
We covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. We
Yeah.
talked quite a bit.
I knew someone would throw Newburyport at me, but Newburyport is a whole different animal. And
Yes.
by the way, they almost
In terms
flushed
of
the
money?
whole downtown. No, in terms of geographic advantages.
You know, I think Amesbury is probably the fairest, to me, is probably the fairest comparison. Amesbury does not have a gigantic street to play with.
Smaller town on a much smaller
And it's
scale.
not- and-
easier to make easier to turn that ship than it is a ship like Methuen.
And people also say, well, look at Amesbury. Okay, let's look at Amesbury, because that little area right there is still not bustling to me. It's on its way back. But
Right.
it's you know it's not quite. I go there a fair amount.
Good restaurant levels.
Because I love flatbread pizza.
Yeah.
So
Good restaurants.
yes.
Storefronts aren't doing that great.
No.
No.
Nope. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. It's not an easy thing. But this was a lot of fun. This was a great
Yes.
show.
And a huge thank you for coming in, Lou. Anything else you want to address that
No.
doesn't get us into a half-hour conversation?
No, we get to do it next week. That's the
the
fun part.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
All right, huge thank you, and I do need to I do need to get one more in here. Let's talk about JG's before we go, because I don't want to leave them out. They are celebrating 35 years with a big bang. Buy one, get one free on batting cages, bumper cars, mini golf, and go-karts. Get a fun pass for just $21 that includes one of each. plus an ice cream or a slushie. JG's is #1 for family fun, birthday parties, and group outings. Check out the July 3rd edition of Loop Weekly for these coupons. Visit them, and please, in this heat wave, go get some ice cream. Visit them at 602 Lowell Street in Methuen, and visit their ice cream stand at 327 South Broadway in Salem as well. JG's is also sponsor of the Stars of the Week segment on Ranger Nation Radio. They provide the gifts for our guests on the show, and they also sponsor the Peaks of the Valley segment in Loop Weekly, which also highlights youth athletes around town. So huge shout out to JG's. Huge shout out to all our sponsors. Huge shout out to I think we were averaging about 40 to 45 folks live on the stream at this point. We keep growing every week.
1,100 plus live today.
Phenomenal.
Wow.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So huge thank you for that. We'll keep building this. And huge thank you to our sponsors. Huge thank you to Lou, again, for staying longer. And we'll talk to you next week.
Huge thanks to you two. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job getting the issues out.
Thank you. I think I'm doing a better job than Lou, if we had to put it.
A is and B.
Yeah.
It's my show.
It's high tide and high cotton right now because it's really easy to do a talk show right now.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. By the way, do not hit me at Stop and Shop saying why you hitting on Lou? Why you hurting Lou? I love Lou.
Myself.
Yes, you can,
yeah.
And trust me, he does. So, all right, Tim Wood. Huge thank you to City Councilor Steve Saba. And huge thank you to you. Watch on demand all week. This will be available on loopweekly.com in the Loop TV section. And it should be on the homepage within the next couple hours. So, and join us next week on Looped In Live, presented by Methuen Family Health Center. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.